which means that law enforcement cannot use this talking point. Since I have not met with any of law enforcement's BFFs since I was a child, and children are not liable under the law. So this is a very last desperate attempt by law enforcement. So this basically goes to my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters, despite having nothing to do with them. Since all their false testimonies have all gotten caught, their talking points, them claiming that I did something bad around them on November 20th, got caught. The early March 2026 got caught. They had already confessed to the government informant. Afterwards, more lies got caught with the phone conversations being forced to be retrieved. So they have no talking point claiming that I committed a crime like on November 20th that they all aggressively claimed. Created mass panic and chaos on CNN. Governor Josh Green had put aside the vaccine issue at the time to find out that everything was a lie. They have no more talking points against me. My dad, the greedy framer, do not claiming that I did anything bad around them. So law enforcement has this talking point that they are claiming that when I was a child, someone might have said something bad around me. Decades ago, children are not liable under the law. As soon as I gained slightest bit of mental maturity and my mother realized that she gained a little bit more independency in life, as the phone conversations from Russia will show, she immediately separated me from everyone that was no longer needed. And the facts and evidences will also show this, that I never met with any of law enforcement's BFFs after I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. All I did was work hard, and we know this to be a fact and not something I'm lying or making up about, due to the fact that things that law enforcement tried to frame me for, like an incident that occurred at a wedding in 2023 that law enforcement was desperately trying to frame me for, I wouldn't be present in that wedding. And the people who would be all law enforcement's BFFs like Sohaib and Assad. And what law enforcement would do at the end of the day is cover over the crime. Never ask a single person like Sohaib or Assad a single question about anything. Cover it over only to uncover it as soon as finding out about my brain savants. So law enforcement cannot use this talking point about me and someone saying something bad around me as a child, because guess what? I haven't seen this person since I was a child, and my mother realized really quickly to change it so that these people were no longer needed around me as a child. So basically, what happened was, now it could never be as bad. First of all, it could never be as bad as what my dad was saying in 2011. I've only met my dad about 3 times in my life. And what my dad was saying in 2011 was to spread jihad around the world and the killing of innocent human beings around the world. He was saying this very openly, clearly, loudly, visibly, and to the point that it scared the crap out of law enforcement. And law enforcement had to tip him off, like, don't say this anymore. We're watching you and we'll have to report you if you don't stop. They tipped him off some way or another, due to which suddenly my dad stopped one day. So basically, the thing about it is, it's never going to be as bad as what my dad was doing. No matter what anyone could have said around me as a child. Why can't it be? Because my dad was recruiting people to go mass murder people in the name of jihad and killing of innocent human beings in 2011, due to which he had to be tipped off by law enforcement. So it could never be as bad as what my dad was doing, because we don't know how bad it was that my dad was doing. What the results of it was, how many people he radicalized, how many people actually carried out jihad, how many people have died, we don't know. So nothing that anyone could have said around me as a child could be as bad as what my dad was saying in 2011, despite me only meeting him about 3 times my entire life. And so the other thing is that this desperate last attempt that law enforcement is now using, where they're trying to say that someone might have said something bad around me as a child, they cannot use themselves. First of all, they're only doing this as a last desperate attempt, but they cannot use themselves. Mainly because if they use it themselves, well, I haven't seen that person since I was a child. despite law enforcement torturing me and pervasively coding this person and sex scheme ads being ruined by me not going there and all this drama that was seen in 2023, November 2023 at the funeral and all these other times as well. Happened multiple times in my life. I refuse each and every single time. I haven't seen these people since I was a child. And law enforcement thus cannot use this talking point because the only person who has is law enforcement who've been running sex games with these people, like Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001. And law enforcement cannot use these talking points because law enforcement not only has been running sex games, but also money fraud, which I do not know with whom or how much, but I know for a fact law enforcement met with these people, exchanged bank account numbers, phone numbers, people that were going to be transferred the money to, how to run the unemployment disability fraud, which I only know no one gives their own money for. And so law enforcement is in a predicament. They cannot use their own talking points. If they do, questions are going to be raised, and it's going to lead right back to law enforcement and not me, since I was only present around someone who could have said something bad around me as a child, whereas law enforcement is present around them this very day today. And I haven't seen them since I was a child. And law enforcement is present with them this very day today, running sex schemes and money fraud with them. And I haven't seen them since I was a child. Children are not held liable for under law. Even if they did say something bad around me, it would never be anything as bad as what my dad was doing and not saying in 2011. You got to remember, anything anyone could have said around me as a child is different from what my dad was doing around me in 2011. Saying is one thing, doing is another. When you're recruiting people for mass murder and jihad in the name of your religion in 2011, like how my dad, the greedy framer, was, that is doing. What he's done, we don't know. How many people have died, we don't know. How many people joined terror groups, we don't know. Did my mother ever utter one word in the past decades I've lived with her, even remotely, resembling that ever once, just once? Never. Not one word considered bad, racist, any way, shape, or form. Not one word. Ask law enforcement, they will tell you. Not one word. Forget mass murder through jihad that my dad was doing and not saying. Not one word. In fact, my mother has always loved everyone of every race, ethnicity, background, religion, to the point that if I tell my mother I'm gonna choose a Jewish wife for myself, my mother always welcomes her with open arms. She knows nothing about any investigations. You can ask law enforcement, they will second my statement, despite them hating me so much. So basically, the thing about it is just the fact that this talking point that law enforcement has about me as a child, someone saying something bad around me, obviously would never be my mother. As soon as she gained the slightest bit of independency and I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was never present around any of law enforcement's BFFs anymore, only because it was no longer needed. And I never saw them ever again, a lot of them. And like Uncle Joey, and the people who were present were law enforcement who, till this very day, are running sex games with Uncle Joey's in-laws and money fraud, God knows with whom, how much money they've accumulated. All I can guarantee is it started with bogus unemployment disability fraud that law enforcement fully knew about and turned a blind eye to, showing the courts that they couldn't care less. So now they have talking points totally invalid. I was a child, even if someone did say anything bad around me. Said, not did. There's a big difference. Did is what my dad did in 2011, where he recruited people for jihad and mass murder. We don't know the effects of, but said anything bad around me as a child is the only option that law enforcement has right now. The only problem with that is they can't use the talking point themselves, because I haven't seen these people since I was a child. My mother gained independency. Soon afterwards, I gained mental maturity as a child. I was never present around them, despite me being a child. But law enforcement still cannot use these talking points because I wasn't present around them ever again. And law enforcement till this very day is running sex schemes and money fraud with these people for years, with the sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws starting from the year 2001, which means that law enforcement is going to give these talking points, ironically, to people like my dad, the greedy framer, whose lies have all gotten caught. November 20th, my dad, the greedy framer, forced his sisters to make caught. Early March 2026, my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters pushed very aggressively in court, caught. When they realized who the government informant was, they realized that they had already confessed to these being caught. More lies pushed very aggressively. My dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters caught through phone conversations that had to be retrieved only because of how aggressively he was pushing these lies forward. So they have no more talking points claiming that, like on November 20th, that they witnessed me commit a crime. Law enforcement has won. They're going to say that someone said or not did something bad around me as a child. They're ironically not going to say it themselves. Instead, they're ironically going to give it to my dad, the greedy framer, who did and not said something bad around me in 2011, which was only one of the very few times that I actually ever visited him. And he was doing, not saying. What he was doing was he was recruiting people for jihad mass murder before he had to be tipped off by law enforcement. So now he's ironically saying that someone said something bad around me when I was a child. Big difference between saying and doing, and the child cannot be held liable under the law, and the people who can are the adults who might have said anything bad, and law enforcement who knew about it did absolutely nothing. But since this is the only option left, this is what law enforcement now has to do.